This is the Clubroom, which is brought to you by the Winning Academy. Again, my name is Mark Moyer, and I work with athletes and former athletes and help them transition from their sport to their next great chapter. And today's event was really geared towards helping everybody think about how to maximize their performance going from one entity to the next, whether it's from sport to their next thing, or it could be if you're an executive and you're switching from banking to wanting to do something else, whatever it might be. It's all about learning how to be a better networker, how to be a better conversationalist, how to know what to ask for and when to ask for it, and how to follow up with people. So we like to talk about a lot of things. We've covered a ton of ground today, but this is going to be some awesome, fresh content. I'm really excited about it. And so now I'm going to bring in three fabulous people. I'm going to make some quick introductions, and I'm going to start off with Rushia Brown. I had her we did an event a couple months ago here in the Clubroom. She's absolutely fantastic. She's got so many accomplishments. She's from the big city, from here in New York. She went to Furman University. She played in the WNBA, was fantastic, but she's doing so much now. This is what I really like to focus on, is less on the playing career and more about what's happening now. And Rushia is involved with it. She's the director of community relations and at youth sports with the LA Sparks. She's going to tell us about some of the other things she's involved with, but she's doing so many things now. She's super busy, but she's fantastic. Love her personality too. Rushia, why don't you come in and join us? Here you go. Batting second, and this is a good, I guess, segue into the baseball side of things. Hello, Rushia.
Hello.
And I'm super excited because I also have Emily Jaenson, and Emily is originally from Illinois, which she was a soccer player. She's a very athletic person, but then now I'm just so blown away at what she does. She's the general manager of Aces AAA baseball team. She does so much, and by the way, she's here today and she's giving birth in 11 seconds. In fact, it may happen on the show. So, I'm not actually.
Please don't do it on the show.
No, I know. I think no, but I mean, look, everyone schedules those things now. But I'm joking. But Emily, why don't you come on in and yeah, don't have your baby right now. Is there someone on hand in case?
Don't worry about me.
All right, I won't, of course not. And it's okay because Mike's delivered plenty of babies in his career, I think. I don't know about that. But Mike Hollis is from Idaho. And Idaho is I don't know how many, if you've been there, but it's a beautiful state that it's just such clean, crisp air. But by the way, Emily, so is Lake Tahoe, I know it. But anyway, played in the NFL for a few teams, was extremely successful, was in the Pro Bowl, just a super guy, and he now runs a kicking academy. But I bring him in mostly because I think his personality is so fantastic, and he's really smart too. So Mike, come on in and join us here. I hope that intro was okay. How'd I do, Mike?
Other than the baby part, it was pretty good. I'm not sure where you got that, but
I had it on my.
It's not like the same thing. Babies aren't going out like that,
Yeah, I'm sure if they came out in a spiral format, it'd be a little easier. Maybe. Sorry, Emily. Emily's like, oh God. Anyway, but thanks for all of you for being here. A lot of what I want to talk about is sort of. I mean, look, a lot of this is about transition and transitioning from your sport to what's next. But I actually want to start with Emily because Emily, you did play soccer. Tell me a little bit about, at the time, did you ever feel that could be something you could continue doing, or was it something that was just part of your, school thing? Or what was that like for your soccer?
Yeah, sure. So like a lot of kids, I was an athlete growing up. And when I decided, the next chapter was college, I made a decision, soccer focus or academic focus. And I picked academics, but then I stutter started because I ended up walking on to the team and then decided again that my original decision was the one that I wanted to stick with. And I think that I can speak for, myself and some of my friends that were part of my club growing up. you've got to make that decision. It's really hard to let go of what you've done forever. But for me at the time, the right decision was to focus on my academics and what I wanted to achieve at university. And that was the beginning of the transition. But obviously I didn't let sports go. I just found a new way to get involved, and that was in the front office.
And that is cool. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Your story is fantastic. And there's so many cool turns in it, but I'm going to shift over to Mike for a sec. So Mike, at what point did you kind of say, oh my God, I could actually play in the NFL? I mean, did you know it all along, or was it something that, when did that hit? When did that happen?
Probably like my senior year of college. I never had a goal of playing in the NFL. My goal was to be as good as I personally could be, and whatever level that got me to, I'd be happy with. And I guess it just was the NFL level. But when you start comparing yourself and your stats, and hang time on kickoffs and distance on kickoffs, and you're watching the games, and every Sunday to have my stopwatch out, and I'd watch the kicks go, and I'd see how far and how high they went. And so I'm like, yeah, I can do that. Obviously, the NFL ball is a little bit different than college ball, but I just wanted to do the best that I could, and whatever level I got to, I'd be happy with.
And it's interesting because there's some people that when they play their sport, they're like, you know what, I'm one of the better ones in the country or in the world, and I can knock it out of the park. I'm going to go get them. But then you really speak to a lot of people that just kind of had no idea that, and it happens almost not instantaneously, but it happens almost instantaneously, and they're caught off guard by it, and they're sometimes surprised. But Rushia, tell me about your case though, and when at what point did you say, I'm crushing in school, but am I able to play in the WNBA? Is that the next step for me? Tell me a little bit about what went on that time.
When I was at Furman, there was no WNBA. So I guess I'm telling my age as we embark upon the 25th anniversary, but there was no WNBA. So I never thought about it. I just wanted to go to school, get a great education for free, and then get me a job. And when my senior year came, an agent reached out to my coach about playing overseas playing internationally, going overseas. So I was like, well, that'd be a cool option. So I'll do that. But when the WNBA started 3 years later, it was something I had to be a part of, and I was going to do whatever it took. But it was never an aspiration, never.
That's really interesting. But then obviously it turned into that. Now, all those years later, it sounds horrible, but some of those years later, a couple years later, now
25 years later.
All right, fine. Well, I'm not going to say it. But anyway, so wait, you graduated when you were 8 years old, obviously. That's what I tell people.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Mm-hmm. But, all these years later, you're still obviously very, very enmeshed in the game. Obviously looking back, you never really said, 25 years from now, I'm going to be still involved with WNBA, but it's really incredible the growth that's happened, right? I'm sure it's been very exciting for you to be a part of it all along the way. And I know there's been a lot of this that's gone on, probably a lot of that, but hopefully now it's more of this. But tell me a little bit about how you feel the trajectory is. Or are you happy with it? Are you frustrated with it? What's your feeling about it?
We have come such a long way, and I'm extremely excited about the progress that's been made, because the first year that we were, brought into the WNBA, there were rumors. Everybody was like, it won't last 5 years. It won't be around. Nobody's going to support women's sports. It's not going to be here. But the NBA was committed to it. And even the coaches that they got those first couple of years were like college coaches that have been fired, and people that weren't going to give up their real jobs just in case it didn't work, so there were minimal commitments. But here we are now 25 years later, and we've been through a few presidents, and we have a new commissioner that's business minded and instead making sure that marketing and opportunities occur for our women. And we're just really in a really good place. But like anything else, growth, is sometimes painful. So we've had our ups and our downs. We've rebranded. We've done a few things. We've had a lot of different things happen, but where we are right now, I think we're in a super strong place, and I'm really excited about it. This 25th anniversary is going to be an awesome year. We've made it through COVID. Our women are standing for excellence both on the court and off. And I never would have thought that 25 years later, I would still be associated with this league. I literally thought I was lucky to get in, to even be a part of it. But now here I am in a front office position and still working with our retired players. So it's clearly, it was planned out and I had no idea. So I'm glad I was obedient.
I like that. And it's interesting. And I think, time truly does fly. I mean, we hear that and it's absolutely true. But before I go on much further, because Emily, I'm going to tee you up with a nice juicy question here. But for anybody who's watching and wants to answer or ask any questions, please put that in the Q&A section on the right side there on your screen. You can enter it on the bottom there and it'll pop up there. And we can feel free to ask questions of Emily, Rushia, or Mike. So Emily, this past year and change has been pretty challenging. I mean, especially in your world and baseball world. But now things are, the light's on the other side of the tunnel and so forth. But tell me, I think when we first did our first show, it was literally like 11 seconds after COVID or something like that. And nobody knew anything about what was going to happen. It was, there was like, oh yeah, we're going to be delayed by a few days or something. And then everything got zapped out, canceled. But then Major League Baseball made their announcement of what they were doing with minor league baseball. Tell me a little bit about what it was like to be, you're GM, you're running the show with the Reno Aces there, AAA affiliate of the Diamondbacks. First, talk to me about the challenges with COVID and how you were able to hold the staff together and then communicate with the team, that sort of thing.
Oh boy, hard to know where to start with that one. I guess rewind back to March of last year, and we saw it get real through the eye of sports. I think sports was the first thing that was affected when the NBA, stopped a game, postponed the season. I think we were ahead of the rest of the world in canceling our live events. And we sent our staff home that same week. We thought that we'd be home maybe a few weeks and then we'd be back at it. I remember working with the marketing team to reboot the schedule to start mid-May. And we sat in this place of, I guess the best way to describe it is purgatory for months, because it wasn't until right before July 4th that they effectively canceled the minor league baseball season. And it wasn't just us in the front office, it was all of our players too. They were waiting at home. I was communicating with our farm director who's saying, like, I'm just doing weekly check-in calls with these guys. I have nothing else to do because we don't know what's next. For me and my staff, we had a lot of start, cancel, restart, pivot, planning. And as a leader, I think the biggest challenge was making work meaningful during that time when there was so much uncertainty. And so what we did was, instead of focusing on what might be, we decided to focus on some specific business units, really dig into the data, take the time that we never have because we play half the year and we only have half the year of an off season to reformulate all the plans. Dig into the data, really make recommendations. We had task force that worked on different areas of the business and then created presentations and plans and reboot of certain areas that we never have the time for under our normal time pressures of the regular cadence of the year. And so I think what that did was help give our staff intention, which I think is so important as an employee, like how am I contributing to the company? And it also helped to move our business forward. So while we couldn't have anticipated everything to be ready for opening day last week, I feel like we certainly were a lot more prepared and our business is ready for the next chapter post-COVID.
So, because I was thinking just how challenging it must have been, because we all know that minor league players are not really overly well compensated and so forth. And so how hard it must have been for them to be basically waiting at home, waiting for that next week's call, and that sort of thing. But then you had, and I'm going to ask you this after I loop back around a little bit, but the whole thing with the upheaval with Major League Baseball, minor league baseball, and all that sort of thing, because that must have been like a second whammy. But before we talk about that, I want to actually ask Mike a question that ties in with this a little bit. I mean, you run a kicking academy that obviously requires people to be. There's no remote learning, or very little of that, I'm assuming. Tell me how you adapted when that got going, or how, you know.
Well, to be honest with you, I'm in Florida, and to be honest with you, it really wasn't that we didn't really get affected a whole lot, clearly compared to the rest of the country. But you know, with what we did, we do remote stuff. I do a lot of virtual stuff as well. I've got clients in South Africa. I've got a guy that I'm going to meet up with virtually tomorrow in Croatia. You know, so we do definitely virtual stuff, but. To be honest with you, you know, if the kids were okay with practice, and we'd go outside as well. I mean, we do most of the training indoors, but the facility we were in closed down for a while, clearly. So we would go outside, and if the kids wanted to wear masks, they would. If not, no big deal. It did slow down a little bit, but not nearly as much as you know what we've heard around the country. You know, these businesses are closing down, and it's so unfortunate. But again, I mean, Florida is. It seemed very relaxed with it. Obviously, it's, you know, is what it is, and you know, we got to take it, you know, serious. But it wasn't nearly as bad as the rest of the country.
That's interesting. And did you find that? I mean, so now are you sort of back to, I mean, full boat again, or how's that going?
Now we've been full boat for the last 3 months, 4 months, 5 months maybe.
Oh, that's great. Good.
Full go. Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love it. And so, you know, we had the pleasure of, I mean, Mike, you were did an episode with me a couple of months ago with this South African guy, and he, fantastic guy. What's the latest with him, by the way? Give me a quick update on him.
Oh, very cool story, by the way. So Vihan was his name, and he coached a kid by the name of Henry. Yeah, and Henry came to the United States to work with me personally, and he got into the Reno League and is doing well. He's plays for Green Bay right now, but Vihan is still coaching over in South Africa, and they both. It's such a weird story. Vihan was listed in the global draft for the Canadian Football League. He was listed as one of the top 10, you know, kickers that could be drafted. Well, the night before the global draft, the Saskatchewan Roughriders head coach emailed me and said, which I actually know, I played against him in Montana. And he said, tell me about Henry now, because he'd asked me about Vihan before. And I gave him my stuff about Vihan. And he said, well, hey, how do you compare Vihan to Henry? I'm like, oh, no, here we go. And I got 2 clients that I work with real closely that now I got to pick and choose. I kind of danced around the answer and kind of gave them both good props and said, you know, I don't know. They're both great. You know, good luck sort of thing. But they drafted Henry, and a week later, they picked up Vihan, same team, picked up Vihan on a 3-year deal. So Saskatchewan has signed both those guys, and they're going to compete for the job, even though they're South African buddies and they've worked together. So it's a very interesting story, but very really cool.
That's kind of cool. I love it. Thanks for that update. Appreciate it. Hey, Rushia, so I was wondering, tell me a little bit about what the Sparks did during this sort of the year away. How they try to keep, whether it was fans engaged, the players engaged, that kind of a thing.
Well, we became very acclimated with Zoom, as did most of the rest of the world. And with the players down in the bubble, it actually gave our game a chance to be on TV more eyes on the game. So that actually helped. But as far as our engagement in the community, I literally had to become the queen of Zoom. So just trying to keep things engaging, and I'm so over it, like I'm sure the rest of the world is, and so glad we're coming out of this, because I'm that engagement person. I want to talk to you, I want to feel your energy, I want to smile, I want to shake hands, I guess fist bump now, whatever we're going to be doing. But it's just we were really in a place where we had to find a way to engage people. So we did virtual basketball clinics, which opened up our reach, because typically the kids in the local area would come, but we had kids from South Africa, from Germany, from Atlanta, from everywhere, because all they had to do was log on from Zoom. So we gained a few more fans. So we had to just learn how to be creative and maximize the opportunity of getting in front of our fan base and just even growing by giving different people an opportunity to be a part of our junior sports programs.
That's really neat. So it seems like, I mean, now things are kind of getting going again. I mean, Emily, I know your season's up and running, and that's got to be so looking at it. Now, I mean, I need to know right now, are you looking out the field? Can you see out the field from your window there or not?
I look at the plaza, so I
All
get to
right.
see the big line of people waiting to get into the ballpark, which
Ooh,
is,
that's exciting.
yeah.
Yeah. Now, tell me a little bit about what went on with, were you involved in any of those conversations with Major League Baseball, minor league baseball, or did they kind of just the announcement came up from here and they said, this is what's happening?
Oh, there were a lot of conversations, Mark.
Yeah.
Big transition for us to effectively shut down the minor league baseball offices. And now we are overseen by and a part of Major League Baseball. I think transition is hard for anyone, especially if you don't look at it with the eyes of opportunity. And I think we at my team, I can say we took it from the viewpoint of opportunity and what could come in the future by having access to the tools, resources, data, people, the mecca that is Major League Baseball. And so, yes, I mean, pandemic and that major shift in a new PDL was crazy to happen at the same time. But you know, hindsight, we don't know any different. So we're marching forward, and we've been engaged with the office, you know, on a very, very regular basis, daily, multiple times a day. And then I think the league office has done a really good job of creating PDL committees. So we have, I think there's 6 different committees regarding governance, regarding youth sports. I was lucky enough to be selected to the DE&I committee. So I get to work with the office on that, which is one of my passions. So that's pretty exciting for me and for the ACEs to be included at that level. But you know, it's been a ride. That's for sure. It's not over yet. We've got to get through this season. It's been a challenge, to say the least, to open underneath the veil of COVID protocols, with players and intake and travel and testing, distancing. I mean, covered persons, restricted areas. It's been a challenge for sure, but sometimes and oftentimes I think through those challenges you find greater strength. So our relationship with the Arizona Diamondbacks has strengthened tremendously through this turbulence. Also my connection with the clubhouse and the coaches, and when you got to go through something together, you know, that builds a little bit more of a bond. And we truly are in it together. And our goal is to put on a full season of AAA baseball here in Reno and in the AAA West, so that we can develop the talent for the big leagues.
That's awesome. You know, and I've had some other folks on here who talk quite a bit about minor league baseball and how challenging it is. I mean, each sport is different, how their players are compensated. And in minor league baseball, they're just unfortunately not, except for Reno, I'm sure, but they're not compensated.
It depends.
Yeah,
It depends on who you
Yeah.
are and what type of contract you have. I see Mike and Rushia nodding their heads. It's player specific. Here in AAA, you're on the doorstep of MLB, or I mean, I think we've already had 25 transactions and we've had 12 games. So the big league call-ups happen on the daily. In fact, I sent my clubby on a plane this morning to LA to meet up with the D-backs to deliver some equipment, because there was a call-up last night and the equipment was headed to Sacramento with the team. The player was headed to LA to face the Dodgers tonight. And he got on a flight this morning with some spikes and a glove, and there we go. So it is, it's a crazy ride, that's for sure.
ask you something because I'll see it on TV all the time, one way or the other, and who knows what. But who gets to tell the player that they're being called up? Is it you or is it a manager? Or?
It's the manager or our farm director. They're working to develop that talent, and they get the honor of that call up. Quickly, I'll tell a story from 2019 because it's one of my favorite baseball stories. I don't know if this will be topped. So we had Chris Crone was our manager, longtime baseball player. He was a coordinator with the D-backs for a long time. Got the job to be the manager in Reno. He's got two sons who are professional baseball players. His middle child, Kevin, was with the D-backs organization and made his AAA debut in 2019 playing for his dad. Wow. And never had a major league call up. And so this story was brewing and brewing and brewing, like, oh man, what if Crone gets to call up Crone? And here we were playing in Tacoma, and the call came through to Chris that you got to go tell your son he's getting the nod. And they were already back at the hotel post game, and Chris went to Kevin's door, knocked on his door, and he told me, these are big men, big burly baseball players, and he said he just told Kevin it's happening, and they just fell into each other's arms in this like manly embrace, and gave him the nod. So he got to call his son to the big leagues, and then he took him to the airport that day. But pretty incredible, and I think something that Little League baseball dreams are made out of. A father telling his son, you get your big league debut. So it was pretty cool.
That is incredible. And I mean, look, I think it's I don't know how many millions of hours I spent out in the front lawn playing wiffle ball and baseball with my son and stuff. I couldn't even imagine. I mean, I always see when they show the parents in the stands, and it doesn't matter what sport, the parents in the stands watching their son or daughter become an athlete. But to get to that level, Emily, you're absolutely right. That's absolutely amazing. I'm going to shift this over to Mike because I really like this story too a little bit. But tell me a little bit about. I know I asked you this once, but what it's like to, you made the NFL and then you played many years. First time you walk in the stadium, you're like, oh, wow, I made it here. And then what? Was it crazy butterflies the first time you went out for a kick? Was it like, I got this, mentally you're like, I got this easy? Or were you like, oh shit, I just hope what was that like?
Well, game days are just strange. As a kicker, you got to be focused and you want to really, focus on what you're doing. It's hard in that kind of situation to absorb what's really going on around you. My first NFL game experience, a live NFL game experience, was me actually playing in it. I never had gone to an NFL game live, never even been to a stadium where there's a game played, nothing like that. And my very first game was actually the Hall of Fame game. When I was with the Chargers, we played the Atlanta Falcons, and Norm Johnson was the kicker for the Atlanta Falcons at the time. And he commented on the number I was wearing. And again, I kicked myself, like, why did I say that? That was so stupid of me to do that. So we're pregame just hanging out, talking. He goes, hey, I like your number. Like, he was kind of complimenting me because I had the same number he did. And my response was, oh, well, they just gave it to me. They didn't really have my number. And I'm like, and I was just like, oh my gosh, what? That was the stupidest answer ever. I could have been, oh, thanks, man. I really appreciate, but again, I'm just kind of in la la land at that time. And one of the coolest experiences though, and I've told a kid today, actually, I was coaching, I said, when I first got the nod, that I made the NFL, like the first time that I knew that I was on an active roster, when they, we call him the Grim Reaper. He comes in the locker room on the final cut day and points to the guys, says, you need to see coach, you need to see coach, you need to see coach. I was sitting next to the guy that I was competing against, Scott Sisson, and he pointed to Scott and said, you guys go see coach and bring your playbook. And at that moment, you realize that you've made the team. I was excited for like 10 seconds. And then my next question to myself was, okay, what do I do now? It's the challenge of getting to the NFL was there. I got it. I made it finally. But now what? And of course, I had a good head on my shoulders to think that, I got to get better. I got to still improve. I got to, not just coast and maintain and just whatever. I still got to get better. I still got work to do. So it was an awesome experience all around. And it, as far as the fans and stuff like that and going to a big stadium, I'm a kicker. I should be oblivious to any of my surroundings, and which I was. So that's what's one thing mentally. You have to be mentally strong as a kicker to ignore everything around you. Just focus on your job. So fortunately, I was good at that.
When you said that, it just dawned on me something. Rushia, in basketball, especially in college hoops, behind when someone's shooting a free throw, you're seeing all these people waving, all kinds of stuff and everything else. Do you think the players ever get fazed by any of that stuff, or is it just they block that out also, just like Mike was talking about?
No, it's absolutely like Mike said. You are trained to focus on what you're doing, and that's it. And especially at the free throw line, you see nothing but that rim. You see nothing but the rim. And if you see anything else, that means you're probably going to miss because you're not focused. So with the amount of training and just the different things that you go through in preparation, you know what is coming. So you just learn how to completely block everything out. And it's amazing how you can zone in on something and it just becomes white noise. Everything else becomes white noise.
Now, is that something that you feel you can carry into the rest of your professional career? I mean, not just basketball, but whatever you do.
It's, that skill is a gift and a curse because I can be in a room with 10,000 people and not hear anybody because my mind is somewhere else. So I definitely use that skill to my advantage when necessary, but I have to make myself pay attention when I've got a lot of things on my mind because it's very easy for me to zone out. So like I said, it's a gift and a curse. So it definitely has its benefits.
You know what? I don't think you need to be a professional athlete. I think my kids have developed that skill too, the ability to completely ignore everything.
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah, I know, it's a thing. Real quick, there's a couple of questions in here I want to ask. Emily, CJ was asking, Emily, I was working in minor league baseball last year, and I was wondering how affected was your corporate partnerships during that time, and how have the Aces recovered this season?
I'm happy to answer that one. So we had sort of two iterations of that. We had last year money we could earn, which a lot of that was in the digital space. So that was sort of conversation one, is what could we pivot into the digital space and earn through our brand reputation, and the way that we were showing up for the community, with community events or giveaways or programs, like things that we were doing to keep the fans involved. So we were able to earn some revenue in 2020 off those contracts. The next iteration was rollover. So, hey, your part of your contract was to do this set of elements in 2020. What does that mean for you in 2021? If it was a multi-year agreement, could we just push that forward and extend the agreement 1 year? Lots of different iterations. And then for any new prospects, it was back to baseball. So we went to market with the most confidence that we could in the world that baseball would return in 2021. And you had to be here for that resurrection. And I'm proud to say we hit a business high at the end of last week, highest partner revenue recorded in company history.
Wow. Impressive. Well done.
So thank you for teeing up that question so I could just
right?
news of how awesome our partnership team is.
You didn't send him that question ahead of time, did you, right?
I did.
No, I know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, he has a question for you, Mike, and he says he recently started a football camp during the pandemic, and they've achieved some success. Can you give any tips about how to grow the fan base and the marketing efforts?
If you've had success during a pandemic, hopefully you'd have even more, after this pandemic. Hopefully it'll be over soon. But the thing that I really like, and I don't ask for them, but they're unsolicited, which is even better. is any sort of, testimonials, like if you've had the camp and you've had kids during the camp, and how did they like it? And if they, obviously you can ask for them. And, when you give testimonials on something, that basically is speaking from the heart. These athletes are, they had a great time, some good points about the camp, what they learned, and then show that to the world, show that in your social media platforms, whatever it is you're using for your marketing. I'm not a great marketer. I don't like to talk about myself. I don't like to brag, but there's certain things that I'll post that kind of have to do with me clearly playing the NFL, but sometimes I'm just trying to add credibility to my kicking, techniques and things like that, because I'm not a real big guy, and I was able to do things that these big, strong, freakish athletic were able to do. And yet I played as long or maybe longer than some of them did at the high level of football in the NFL. So I think just adding, however you can add credibility to your actual camp and your program and your business, whatever it is, and then send that out to the world through social media and other forms of marketing, however you see fit.
Hey, CJ, that's a great answer. Thanks, Mike. And CJ, those are great questions. Appreciate it. So I'm going to throw one last question at each of you. I didn't really do this with the other panels, but I decided I want to have a little more fun with you guys here a little bit. Rushia, if you were given a one-day contract tomorrow to play for a team that wasn't basketball, who would it be? And
Fly Eagles. I want to play for the Eagles. Fly Eagles. You heard me. You see this green shirt. I am a huge Eagles fan.
And what position would you play?
I would play receiver.
Yeah. That's
Actually,
cool.
I might want to play a little DB or safety, so I can, pick a ball and run it back.
Nice.
No, I want to bat
like
it down. I want to catch it and run it back. I want to intercept it and run it back.
I love it, man. You didn't even hesitate. That was good.
No way.
Right,
I loved football as a kid. I just couldn't take it anywhere after, playing in the streets with my cousins. That's as far as I could go.
You know what? That's the next frontier, isn't it? Women in the
Well, they can have
NFL
it
or something. Yeah.
So they can.
That's a great answer. Thanks. All right, Emily.
Well, Mike isn't on the call today, but I probably would have been a kicker in the NFL. Yeah, my brothers played football, and so I was a tomboy to the extreme, out there in the backyard with them and all their friends all the time. I did love a couple of stints as QB or as a receiver, but I think adding my soccer skills, kicker, would be cool. Not to mention, like, that is that moment of, like, it's all down to you. Man, Mike, I'd love to have that conversation with you.
I hate it.
Hear more about it. I get, all the nerves even just watching the game, but to be that guy or that girl, that's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
That's great. All right, Michael.
That was a great answer, Emily. I don't have any specific team or whatever. I'm as a kicker, I'm kind of an individual, so I like to do things for me and individually, not for me, but helping my team out, of course. But I've, in the last 6 years or so, I guess, taken on boxing, and I would love to be a boxer. Clearly, I'm not. I'm too old now. Well, I don't know. Mike Tyson is old, and he's still in the ring sometimes.
You're no Mike Tyson. Sorry.
I've taken on boxing as my workouts now. I've had I've had 4 back surgeries when I was playing football, so I can't do a lot of stuff that's like, I can't do cross training and stuff like that. I probably could, but I would hurt myself. I'm kind of stubborn when it comes to fitness and just trying to be as strong or whatever as I can. But boxing is something that I've really taken a liking to. And you look at the MMA guys and you think, man, those guys are you're in there hitting a bag and doing your boxing stuff like that, and it's such a good workout, and it's so hard that you learn to develop this new appreciation for guys in the MMA world, guys in the boxing ring. It's incredibly difficult to do that, and much respect for those guys. And I just love the personal challenge myself, so that's the sport I would play.
I can't decide if I'm surprised or not. I thought, I mean, I know what you're saying about the individual aspect of things. I thought maybe you'd say something like golf or I don't know, whatever it is, and not like getting your ass kicked
You know,
or kicking ass or whatever it is.
I'm the one guy that was a kicker in the NFL. I'm that guy, that the only guy in the world that sucks at golf. I'm not a good golfer. And everyone expects me to be a good golfer. And you know, when you're playing in the NFL and you're a kicker and you go to these charity golf events and they have auctions like the night before, they're going to auction off the athletes are going to play with the groups. I'm just like, don't auction me. Don't get me, because I'm going to do more harm than good for you. And it's embarrassing when I tee it up and it shoots straight off. I'm not a good golfer.
It doesn't matter as long as you have. Anyway, I truly appreciate each of you coming in. You've given not just great insight and advice, and really talking about, you know, what some of the experiences you've been through, but you've been really generous with your time. Rushia, I don't know if you know this, Mike, you don't know this, but Emily is due to have her baby in a couple of days, actually, days. And Emily, I forgot, I apologize, I haven't watched everything about you on social media, but do we know what we're having?
Yeah, I'm having a girl on Tuesday.
Oh, that's awesome.
To add to my clan of boys, all the boys in my life, I finally get a girl this last go around. So we're excited.
Well, she is going to be absolutely, she's going to be so spoiled by the boys though. And if she's got built-in protection for sure from her brothers. So
100%.
Congrats.
Watch out for her dad. That's going to be hard on her. I feel bad for her already.
Well, I mean, I've got a daughter. It's amazing. You all, congratulations in advance. I'm really excited for you. It's going to be fantastic. But thank you so much for carving out some time to be with us today. I really appreciate that. Rushia, I'm excited for you. Boy, I just noticed now there's lovely flowers behind you. Let's see, was there a wedding recently, or just that's every day? And then
That's funny. My birthday is May 5th. Mother's Day is like whenever Mother's Day, May 9th or something like that. They were really close together. So this house looked like a funeral home. There were flowers everywhere.
I'm glad you said
I don't even
that.
like flowers, but you know, it's whatever. It's good.
No, that's not, well, then obviously
food.
That's true. Hey, Mike, thanks so much for being here too. I really appreciate it. As always, you're a super guy. Thanks to all of you. And if you can stay just for a couple of minutes afterwards, that'd be fantastic, just for last minute questions from anybody. And then, but thanks for hanging out here tonight and this afternoon with us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you.
Thanks
Have a good
so much.
night. My pleasure always. Yeah.